And that was the drama in Parliament this morning. This afternoon, the battle lines are drawn. NDC MPs are in dire need of the support of 47 of their MPP colleagues to force through a vote of censure against the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta. Both sides agree Mr. Ofori-Atta must go, but disagree on the process. The minority last month filed the vote of censure against the minister on grounds of conflict of interest and financial recklessness, leading to the current economic crisis. The MPs who have been pushing for Mr. Ofori-Atta's removal addressed the news conference this morning. Dr. Nana Ayu-Afriye says they are back to the original position of not allowing Mr. Ofori-Atta to read the budget, but cannot support the censure vote. Listen.
We are here to reiterate that however much that you heard us speaking the last 2 weeks, that based upon the intervention of the president, we would have to see the Minister of Finance do his work, read budget, see through appropriation, and then the president will act. Over a few days, we've had the finance minister speaking, and his speaking is informed majority of us in the caucus. Not only to state that we are back to the original position that we took, and that original position is to say that the Minister of Finance will not be the one who must read the budget and must not be the one who will do the appropriation. We are here this morning to say that this is going to be very soon for you to see the position of us. And we are going to be positively defiant on that posture until that action is taken. However, we are not going to support the cause of the NDC in the chamber this morning. The cause of the NDC is premised on falsehood, propaganda, and reasons that are not justifiable. Their position might look like ours, but it's not the same. You will not be able to come to the chamber to level 10 issues that borders on criminality over a person who is not there to defend himself. And we have come to let you know. Let you not confuse the public or yourselves about the cause of the majority and that of the minority. It is not the same. Ours remain as it is. After a meeting this afternoon, we will definitely come back to state our position, and it will be that, yes, our feeling is the confidence in the finance minister has gone down, but for COVID and for the Russian war, he was doing very well, the economy is doing very well, but when people are hard-pressed, they have no understanding to the logic of competence and hard work. And when they lose confidence, the only sector that when you lose confidence, it affects the market and affects the pocket of the people is the finance ministry. And therefore, for us, we have nothing personal against him. Our position is clearly that if confidence has gone down with him, he must go. And that is not the same as that of the NDC. And this is what we have come to inform you this morning. Thank you very much.
Meanwhile, the minority MPs are poised to proceed with their move to oust the finance minister. Minority Chief Whip Mohammed Muntaka Mubarak has been speaking to JoyNews ahead of the vote.
Article 82 clearly states that, 82.4, that the person whose this censure is against will have to be heard during the debate. Very clear that he will be heard during, and for me, fortunately, I didn't go to Achimota, I didn't go to Presec, but during the debate cannot be referred to any other thing. It's simply saying that when the thing is happening, no, he should be heard.
But the Constitution also says that after the vote of censorship, the president may. Are you aware of that?
I can tell you that this may here, that every president will know if 2/3 of Parliament says remove this minister, and you choose not to remove the minister, you know what it means. Parliament will not receive that minister, and it could lead to you yourself, President, going through vote of, process to remove you from office. Because if let's pray tomorrow we get 2/3, and then President Nanado says that, oh, even though 2/3 of you have said I should remove him, I'm not removing him. I can assure you the next day we'll file another process to remove the president from office. That means now the problem of the country has moved from the finance minister to the president himself. So now we'll move the heat from the minister that you can't remove to you yourself. And then we'll start the process. And interestingly, it's the same 2/3 that you need to remove the president. So if he will remove the minister, then he will have to be removed.
You're sure you get that number to remove the president?
One thing I can show you, Aisha, is that this is a game of politics. If we can get to Ted to remove the minister for Nanado, you can be rest assured that that same to Ted will be ready to remove the president.
Of politics, he says, but as it stands now, the minority does not have the backing of the majority, and so the 2/3 is questionable right now. Join us from Parliament, correspondent Kwawu Asante, with the latest on what is happening there. What can you report, Kwawu?
Come again.
What's the latest from where you are?
So the censure motion has not been moved on the floor now. They are asking the Minister for Interior some questions regarding his ministry. We're providing some updates on that. As about 12:30, the information we had was that the minority had agreed to stand out the motion until about 1 p.m. because they were still communicating with their majority colleagues and government. There were some indications that Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta may resign before that is even due. As of now, we do not have any indication if he has resigned yet or has given that clearest indication to resign. So it is expected that now that it's 1 p.m., that is the window that the minority gave. The motion will be moved, it will be debated. The Finance Minister is entitled to be heard in his own defense. But so far, we have not seen him around. He has not been in the chamber. We do not know if he will elect to take this privilege that is afforded him by the Constitution, or he will allow someone else represent him. Those are details that are still very sketchy, and when the motion is moved, they will come across. But for now, the Parliament is discussing other issues, mainly regarding the Interior Ministry and the activities of that ministry until the censure motion is moved.
How successful would this exercise be if the minority should go ahead, if the majority is not participating, or is it just the minority trying to make a point?
So as things stands now, the motion is moved, it will be defeated because there are only 136 NDC MPs. For the vote of censure to succeed, you need 2/3 of MPs. That translates to about 183. If the majority are standing their ground that they will not support this particular motion, the censure motion will fail. But we should keep in mind that this is a secret vote. And so, despite saying that they will not support the motion, when they go into the booth, they are there alone. But yesterday, we heard from the New Patriotic Party who asked the chief whips to ensure that NPP MPs abstain from the vote. If they abstain, then that means none of them is going to vote at all, which will clearly defeat the vote of censure. But still, indications are not so clear. We do not know what kind of conversations both leaderships on both sides are having to lead this on till about the time the vote of censure is moved. But one thing is sure, if the NPP MPs stand their grounds, this vote of censure will fail. But it's very interesting. You have the Dr. Nana Ayuefie, who spoke on behalf of the NPP MPs. He made something categorical. He said that the New Patriotic Party MPs are back to the original position, that the Finance Minister should not be the one to present the budget and should not be the one to do the appropriation. Despite this, they are still against the minority's vote of censure, and that indeed they have some meetings today, after which they will announce their defiant position. And he actually said it clearly that they will be very defiant. It is not clear what exactly they'll be doing if they insist that they won't allow the Finance Minister to present the budget. The budget was expected to be presented on the 15th of next week. The indication is that it's not going to be presented by that time. By the end of this month, the budget would have been presented. So it will take about 2 weeks for this to be done. So if they don't want the Finance Minister to do so, what are they doing and who is going to present the budget? These are our conversations that will be unfolding in the coming days.
But the majority, like you indicate, has made it clear they still back their initial calls for Ken Ofori-Atta to step down. Just by way of clarity, once again, so you are saying that there are indications that the Finance Minister may tender in his resignation, for which this earlier move to vote was postponed to 1 o'clock. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, the indication was that as soon as the Speaker took his chair, the conversation would have been had, the minority would have moved the motion, they would have canvassed the argument in support of the grounds they've listed on the order paper, after which the Finance Minister, if he so elects, would have been heard in his own defense. He's not around. But the indications we got was that the motion was stood down for some few hours to enable these back channel conversations to happen, and that there were clear indications that the finance minister was preparing to tender in his resignation either today or latest by Monday. Those are the indications we are getting from very trusted sources in Parliament. But that has not materialized yet. It's past 1:13 now. The finance minister has not resigned. And so if that is anything to go by, then the vote of censure will be moved. But the reason why I'm anticipating that that conversation was not had earlier is because if the finance minister resigns, then what is the point of the censure, really? So now that he still hasn't resigned, then they may be forced to move that motion.
Interesting, and I just need to note that the majority MPs are in the House at the moment because there were indications that we're going to boycott Parliament today, but we see them there. Anything to say about that?
More than half of NPP MPs are in the House. A lot of them are in the House now. So if the vote is expected to be taken in the vote, that could happen.
All right, keep watching for us, Kwawu Asante, parliamentary correspondent, as we continue to monitor how events will pan out or play out as the minority moves to vote to oust Ken Ofori-Atta, the finance minister. Well, let's talk inflation. The depreciation of the Ghana cedi could continue to negatively impact inflation. That is warning from government statistician Professor Samuel Kobnenim. According to him, the policy decisions that will be taken in the next few months will determine whether the current volatilities in the exchange rate market will continue to influence inflation. He was responding to questions after releasing the October rate of inflation, which stands at 40.4%.
Relative to last month that we saw about 90% of these items recording an increase. This time around for October 2022, it's only one item that did not see an increase. What that means is that all 306 items saw an increase. So there are two things. One is whether the increases are happening, and from the data, clearly increases are happening. And the second one is the extent of the increases and the impact on the consumer price index given the weights. So 306 items are increasing, but out of these 306 items, we try to look at the top 20 items that saw the highest change. And we all know or expect that of this top 20, we are likely to find diesel and petrol as part of it. And indeed, diesel and petrol saw the highest increases. But if you go through the items, their contributions are 0.2% and 1.4%. In terms of how the exchange rate is impacting on this, two things that you need to keep in mind is what are the pass-through effects that we always talk about, how many of these items see the pass-through effects, and the timing for these pass-through effects. So it's possible that the impact of the exchange rate will linger on for X number of months, and the definition or the determination of the X number of months is dependent on the policies that are going to come up in the next 2 months or 3 months, and whether they're going to allow exchange rate to have its full effect or is going to slow it down. So whether we've picked or not, one depends on what has happened, the items that are going to be affected by the price increases that we've seen from a petrol, a diesel perspective, and the length of time that is going to take, whether it's short-term, it's long-term, or there's a lag effect, and thirdly, the effect of other policies that are going to come through.
Associate Professor of Finance at the Andrews University in the U.S., Williams Report, joins us on Zoom to discuss inflation. I'm going to pick your reaction first, though, to what is unfolding currently in Parliament, the moves by the minority to oust the finance minister. And as you have been told, it does not have the backing of majority MPs, who initially had indicated they wanted the finance minister to step down. The majority says, we want to do so, but we'll do so not with the process of a vote of censure. Your thoughts on what is taking place currently?
Good afternoon, and thank you for calling me. Currently, what is happening in Parliament, from both sides, you can see that they all want the finance minister to go backstage. In backstage, meaning whether he leaves the ministry or someone come and take the mantle to become to lead the discussion. So listening to the majority team, you hear them saying that they will not allow him to read the budget, and they are talking about confidence. and you could see that their argument is that he was okay, his strategies were able to keep Ghana working during the COVID period, but after COVID, a lot of things have changed and which requires him to also be removed. But from the opposition side to the minority side, you also hear that they have their own agendas, 10 points, which they are pursuing. The inclination is that should the majority accept, it also affects their political strategy in terms of governance of the country. So that is why we are seeing them going back to the original position. If you listen carefully to the majority, the doctor who spoke, he made a point that they heard the finance minister speak not too long ago, and he did not give confidence. If you remember, the finance minister mentioned that if someone says he's not aware of the strategy or what is happening, then he doesn't understand. So it gives an indication that the finance minister himself has not admitted that his policies are not working. That is why they have gone back to their original position. So though the two parties agree that he will have to go backstage, on the line of political strategies, that's why we see that they don't want to support the minority to pursue the censor vote. But indeed, the confidence must come back, and the indication from Ghanaians and also from the diaspora is that he will have to step down or go backstage. He can support the government from any other institution that he's been transferred to. He does not need to be the finance minister to still contribute to the development of Ghana.
And while speak of confidence, investors are watching all over the world how this plays out, and it seems a bit of politics clouding everything that is going on. And the delay in taking a decision on the finance minister, how does that impact on our markets, on the confidence of the investors?
I mean, so at the moment, if you're an investor, you look at Ghana and you ask yourself, the main policy direction, which an implementation, which sits with the Ministry of Finance, the head is being questioned. I mean, to not be good to invest your money in the country. And you also notice that because of some alliance of other trade partners, everybody will be waiting and watching what will happen. You'll be surprised that the IMF transaction, though it is mentioned that he's the one leading, is delaying because of the uncertainty hanging around the finance minister's head. And it's also a signal that it must change. We have been getting signals that it's not going to happen by the end of the year. Maybe staff level agreement, but the board approval will not happen. All these things are happening because who is going to lead in signing the IMF document? If the man is being asked to resign or go backstage, or because your own party or which you are leading, the members are asking you to go backstage. It is not proper for IMF to conclude a discussion with you because they know that you will not be the one to do the implementation. So these are the metrics that probably government may have to consider. I'm sure by this time somebody will have to be prepared to lead in the signing and the coming up with the implementation strategies. Also, we noticed that the finance minister strategy, as we are aware, it has failed with e-levy. It affects the revenue generation. So that confidence also to international investors that if I lend money to Ghana, they are going to have an issue with revenue because its major strategy has failed. They are looking at which direction will it go. A new person will come out with some form of ideas, and it will help the discussion and bring the confidence back within the economy.
And whilst we concern ourselves with the future of the finance minister, inflation is going up, and the government statistician is warning that the cedi depreciation could further push the rates up in the coming months. I want to take your reaction first to the numbers released yesterday, 40.4%. That was a milestone. And this warning from the government statistician.
I mean, I think we are going back and living in the 80s and 90s. where inflation was above the 30% mark. There were some strategies that were adopted that helped, and probably we may have to revisit those strategies. The signals, according to the statistician, that CD depreciation is a major factor. So we noticed that when the president spoke 2 weeks ago, the president made use some words that he was not going to speak about the technicalities. He was going to just speak to Ghanaians and those in that industry, like the Ministry of Finance, the Bank of Ghana, will come out with the technicalities. That is why we noticed that was a little bit slow in the devaluation of the currency. But within 2 weeks, we have not heard from the central bank or the Ministry of Finance the technical details. So it gives a signal that the president came out to speak that he can't pay the debt. But the technical details are still being requested so that it will give informed investors how to position themselves. We know that president says there will not be any haircut. What are the technical details? It is needed now. So putting all these things together, you realize that the cedi will still suffer a little bit. We shouldn't forget about the seasonalities also of the dollar to cedi relationship in the month of November and December. Historically, and during this period, we see the cedi devalue. So we are there now. So it's giving a signal that it's also going to happen. And then the U.S. economy have also increased their interest rate, which means that a little bit of capital flights will happen in Ghana, and this may lead to the cedi also devaluing. That is why the government statistician was not able to put his hands on. Also, between the month of January to March, we are expecting foreign companies, multinationals, to declare dividends, and they will also be repatriating their dividends out of the country. So this is the time that the central bank will have to be negotiating with them or coming out with a policy to stop the transfer of dividends out of the country. It happened in South Africa. They came out with rules to prevent companies repatriating. In Nigeria, when the economy was getting worse, they came out with rules. Indeed, it will affect some companies to leave the country. We have heard of game leaving the country. But we have to protect our currency. So that decision and policies, I don't know whether they will be factored in the budget so that it is going to prevent the cedi devaluing more in January, February, and March.
Well, the last couple of weeks was good for the cedi, but now it looks like the local currency is losing steam. I mean, based on what we are monitoring, an indication that the short-term fixes are not working. Again, with inflation hitting 40.4%, the central bank, MPC, has to meet once again, and then there are concerns they may end up also hiking the policy rate at the end of the day. We know issues that have come with that as well. I mean, where are we headed?
So the last 2 months, it slowed down because we had the president speaking. So I'm sure the president will have to speak again. And then what Ghanaians or investors are waiting for is the outcome on the finance minister, and it will give a clear indication. But specifically, Ghanaians will be worried about their investment. So now they are torn between investing or consumption. And if you look at the rates that prices are going up, investing will be going down. So that is one of the things that we've seen, that the cedi is being devalued. People are withdrawing their investment to consume because prices have gone up. And it's one of the factors. Also, the cedi, the currency, is not a good store of value now. You cannot trust the cedi as a store of value. There are still some rational economic beings who are also investing in foreign currencies as a safe haven whilst they are in Ghana. Also, the central bank will have to work more on the black market situation. We just noticed they work 1 week and we don't know what has happened, whether they are still working or not, because these are the signals. So if we hear them in the news more, arresting people in the black market, it will give an indication that regulation is working, and then it will bring their confidence back, and that marginal devaluation will also slow down. At the moment, what we need is a slowdown in the devaluation, but we cannot prevent the devaluation of the cedi.
Okay, we would have to leave it here because of time, but interesting thoughts about the central bank and the actions they took on the black market. It looks like it was short-lived because we've not heard anything for the past 1 week or so, and so that was an interesting feedback to give. Thank you so much. You heard the thoughts of Professor Williams at the Andrews University in the US, helping us with issues of inflation, the cedi as well as moves to oust the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta. Our eyes are on Parliament for any developments. We'll bring that to you live here on the Joy News channel. My name is Daryl. Kwawu. Thanks for watching The Marketplace. There is more news on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. Goodbye.